That's what I was comparing to.
So my research experiment was the best tampon, which I was going to do paper towels, but I wasn't able to do paper towels, so tampons came to my mind.
I see that.
And it was interesting, so the girls will think so. My null hypothesis is there is no difference in what brand of tampon you use and how much the tampon will absorb. So my alternate hypothesis is the brand of tampon will make a difference in how much the tampon absorbs. So my variables are my independent, which are the ones I can control, is the brand of tampons. The amount of water I used was 100 milliliters. And then my time, I let the tampon sit in my cup for 3 minutes. So my dependent was the water absorbed by the tampon. So what brands of tampons did I use? I used Super for all of them, just because I was comparing the brands, not like the light, the regular. I used Tampax Pearl, Latex Sport, Kotex, and Equate. I think that's just like a generic brand. So this is what they looked like before, which I thought was kind of interesting after you see the after effect of it. So here is, I hope this plays. I didn't really check it, but where's the volume on this thing? Because my voice is loud. I don't want it to like bust the speaker.
That's on the keyboard is we'll do it looks like a megaphone?
Yeah, the numbers.
Oh, I see it. Isn't it play?
Go down to the bottom of it and see if it pops up.
I worked so hard on this. I did Movie Maker and everything.
Do you have the file like on your flash drive or anything?
Anyways, I used a measuring cup which had milliliters on it. It's on the side. And then I used a little coffee mug and then my stopwatch to keep track of the time and then the tampons. And what I do is I pour the water into the coffee mug, place the tampon in there, start the stopwatch. 3 minutes is up, I dispose of the tampon, pour the water back into my measuring cup, and then I subtract what was in my measuring cup from 100 milliliters to see what the tampon absorbed. So this is my results. And there was differences between each brand. So then I ran a Nova single factor. And right here you can see the averages because I didn't want to put that chart in there since the Nova tells the average with each results I found in each variable. So when I look at this, my F value is greater than my F critical. So then I knew there was a significant difference in one of the variables. So then I ran a two-tailed t-test type 3. And these are my p-values. So when looking at this, I kind of had a YouTube and research like what these mean. And if my p-value is less than 0.05, this means it's statistically significant. So then I found that this, I can fail to reject my null hypothesis. And I can fail to reject my null hypothesis. On the Kotex tampons versus Equate, and the Playtex Sport versus Tampax Pearl, because there was no difference. In these four, I can reject my null hypothesis because there is a significant difference. Because these values are less than 0.05. See, and this is what they look like after you do the experiment. Because they all look the same before you do the experiment, but then afterwards they look like this. So I thought this might play an effect of why they absorb more than the other. And the A is the Playtex Sport, the B is the Tampax Pearl, the C is the Equate tampons, and the D is the Kotex. What? Okay, so ranking, this is probably what most of you all are worried about. The best one was the Tampax. Well, third Kotex, and the fourth the equate. And that's all. Any questions? What?
What were the, can you pull up the list again? The final list you had?
Write it down, Jordan.
This one, the range?
No.
That
Yeah, what are the prices, like, is this,
That's a
did these
price.
go
one?
up?
See, I threw away my receipt and I didn't want to go back and, but the Playtex Sport is the most expensive. It's probably like $7, and then the Tampons, which it depends on how much you buy within a pack, and all these were 18, like in one pack of supers. And the Playtex was the most expensive, then the Tampons, then the Kotex, then the Equate. So the price did kind of, it didn't really, it kind of represented everything.
Remind me off the top of your head, if you can,
What a top on.
in that list there of 1 through 4, which ones were significant and which ones weren't? You know?
The Tampons and the Playtex was not significant, and the Kotex and the Equate were not significant.
Okay.
Like the Tampons, their mean was like 45.5, then the Playtex was like 42, the Kotex was 30, and the Equate was like 25 something.
Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is, I would like for you to take that ranking that's there,
Yeah.
and what you just said about what was statistically significant and what wasn't, and explain what that means.
Wait, like
Okay, you have given me this list of rankings, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. And you've told me, I think if I heard you right, that the difference was not statistically significant between 1 and 2, is that right?
Yes.
And that it was not statistically significant between 3 and 4.
I did, what I based this off mainly was the average of how much they absorb.
Okay.
So I kind of, because that's just how I based that off of. Because really there wasn't a significant difference from 45 to 42.
Okay.
But then
All
when
right.
you get from 45 to 25 or 45 to 30, is that what
Okay.
you're asking?
Yeah, okay, so let's take that and run with it. You say there's not a statistical difference between 1 and 2, and I get that. The
Yeah.
numbers aren't that hard. So then, what would you want your students to infer then if there's not a statistical difference between 1 and 2? What would you expect them then to do? Think about what Jordan asked.
The price?
Okay, if there's really not a statistical difference in absorbency,
Between
then
1 and 2.
then you'd want to go to price.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're getting your students to think to the next level, because
Gotcha.
that it really fits into this particular project. If there's not a statistical difference in how well the product performs, then be economical. If there is a statistical difference between 2 and 3,
Yeah.
price
Then
may
you-
not be that big. Now I have one other question.
Yeah.
Does it concern you any, or should it concern you any, that I noticed all of your measurements were to a nearest 5, like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc.
Yeah.
Do you think your conclusions might have been different if you say, instead of using this measuring cup, it used a graduated cylinder where you could have gotten more accurate measurements like 48, 32?
Maybe, like, honestly, where I have like 20 and 30, like, those were right on the dot. But when I did like 55, yeah, I kind of did estimate and
Yeah.
kind of guess. But yeah, that is true. But
Okay.
really, I didn't take that into consideration. But that could be one of the flaws of this experiment. All right.
Why did you choose 100 milliliters?
Because when I was gonna do like 300, and that was just because I realized I did 300 and I did 200 and 100, and it didn't really matter that they absorbed the same amount. And 100 milliliters covered the tampon, so I figured 100 milliliters would work. Like when I
What's a question you would ask your students about why, let's say that you don't, I don't know why, I still don't know why you chose 100. I mean, is that the volume that is usually used in a tampon? Or did you test it for something outside the normal?
well, see, I was just wanting to know how much it absorbed.
This is really awkward.
No, I mean, because
I
did
didn't
you,
really think it mattered if I used 200, 100, 300, 500. No matter what, it was still going to absorb 20 milliliters of that 300, 200, 100. Know what I mean? So as long as the tampon is covered and it can absorb the amount, it's
And I guess, just from a classroom practical thing, I guess it would be easier to say take the 100 milliliter graduated cylinder and fill it to the top as opposed to every time? I mean, I don't
I
know.
didn't know.
I think that's a
thinking
valid question.
From the relevant real life application aspect, and where are my biology teachers? Any of you in here? Is 100 reasonable for the biological system we're talking about?
Yes, dear.
Probably not, but yeah.
I've never filled a graduated
I guess about biology.
I would just, in the future, because obviously people were interested, but you would want it to make sure on your end that you, how much it really is supposed to.
Because you don't use just one tampon, like she said. She just said that, she made that comment. So I wonder how much, like, you really do. I bet it's more than you think.
What?
I bet it is. Is it not? Is it really not?
How many tampons you use?
Well, like the